Good morning. It's Wednesday, March 11th, 2015. This is Tech Talk Today, episode 143. It's going to be a short show today. Don't complain. You'll understand why. Let me explain why. I'm becoming an old man, and I only want to talk about certain tech stories that seem relevant. And what happens on weeks when big tech companies, Microsoft, Google, or Apple pretty much, or maybe sometimes, not Amazon, pretty much when Apple does it, it just sort of dominates the news cycle for the week. Nobody else really even wants to release anything, really, because they won't get any attention. So everybody kind of holds their cards in for the week, and Apple kind of runs with it. And so it's sort of now gotten to now that Apple's done their big show, there's nothing new. So the tech industry, the news arm of it, goes into this sort of circle jerk, masturbatory sort of reporting on itself phase, and it gets really super obnoxious. So what I've decided to do is just pull out a couple of stories that I thought were of note today that we'll talk about really quickly. We'll do our Kickstarter of the week, and then I've got an interesting food for thought story at the end. So it still should be a pretty good show. We got the whole Mumble crew here, so let me bring them in. We can get started with some of the great news stories today. Time appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Well, hello.
Time appropriate greetings.
Hey guys, hello. So yeah, I was just looking at some of the stories, and I just thought to myself, this is not a great day for news. This is what happens after these announcements. I'm kind of glad I'm taking tomorrow off. Remember, tomorrow no show, back on Friday, because we pre-recorded Tech Snap, so I'm going to be working in the studio. Let's talk about something that might be pretty beneficial to the Jupiter Broadcasting Studio. Speaking of working on the studio, today Google has announced a new cloud storage product called Google Cloud Storage Nearline, a low-cost storage service. Now, you might be familiar with things like Amazon Glacier, and if you're really sort of old school, you remember Nearline storage is something a little bit different than something up in the cloud. But the idea is, say a company like Jupiter Broadcasting, where we have gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of video footage. Well, we start having to essentially buy hard drives every quarter, and it gets expensive. We've looked at things like Glacier, but when you combine the speed of upload and the cost of storage, it's not very appealing. Well, Google Cloud Storage Nearline, businesses can store data or, like maybe in my case, movie files for less than, I guess it's just, if I'm getting the pricing right here, let me stop this. They have a chart here that I'm trying to, it depends. They have a chart here where the pricing varies, but it looks like if we were okay with somewhere in the 2-second retrieval time to hours, we could pay a penny per gigabyte. A penny per gigabyte for storage might be cheaper than how much it would cost us to buy hard drives every quarter. And normally online storage is much more expensive. Maybe in the 8 cents range. Of course, it depends on the kind of backup storage, but with Nearline, Google wants to blur the line between standard online storage and cold storage so businesses don't have to delete their data anymore. They want to create a product that made it economical to never throw anything away, they say. Doesn't Google just love that? Google's pretty good at storing things, but every organization should be able to keep its data around. So Google's able to offer a competitive price, which is on par with Amazon Glacier because it's able to host all of the data on a single system, no matter whether it's online or nearline. They're using their own storage system. They're grafting this on top of it. And so the idea would be is you just sort of would migrate things off in the back end to the Google Nearline storage at a penny a gigabyte. Now, they do have faster storage where where it sort of migrates to more online, and then the prices can get closer to 3 cents a gigabyte, but just a pretty interesting move. Google is definitely going after Amazon in the cloud server market. Would you guys, if somebody at your company or yourself wanted to store a bunch of data offline, would you be comfortable storing it with Google?
Sure, as long as I encrypt it first.
But then you might not get advantage of certain transfer benefits, maybe, or like synchronizations or changed file stuff. Sometimes there's disadvantages to pre-encrypting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would depend on the files that I was transferring and sharing.
Yeah, and I think, Google is not dumb. They know that if they want to sell this to businesses and organizations, there's certain guarantees they're going to have to be able to make businesses about the privacy of the data. So I'm sure that's factored into the system. I doubt, I guess you never know for sure, but I doubt Google's trolling it for advertising data. I wouldn't think. But if anybody gets a chance to play with it, please write into the show and let us know. One Apple story today. Just one out of, trust me, maybe quite literally thousands to pick from. This one I grabbed because I think it shows in an interesting snapshot the state of Apple. These stores that they have are some of the most profitable stores. Like, they're more profitable than jewelry stores, these Apple stores. And now the Wall Street Journal today is covering a story that Apple stores are such a traffic magnet for the malls that they go into that Apple is able to negotiate lower rent at these malls than pretty much anybody else gets because Apple draws so many people into the mall. Now, I guess maybe that's not too uncommon, but essentially, Apple goes to the mall and says, look, we're going to bring your traffic up minimum 10%. And they say... they've looked at the malls that they've looked at, and then Green Street Advisors went out and also tried to independently verify this, which is a real estate research firm. And they say, yeah, turns out this is true. They are bringing in more traffic to the malls, and so now Apple is using their research as more leverage to get more money off of the rent, which is in some cases maybe as much as 15% off, which is a pretty big deal for these pretty popular spaces. I just thought that was an interesting way to snapshot how successful Apple has been with these stores, in that they have that level of leverage. And then somebody went to go challenge it, and then people that were challenging it ended up confirming it, and then Apple just uses that. Kind of a funny story. Doesn't really tell you much other than they are a completely different company than when I was a kid. I remember reading that Apple was going to fail. I remember the Dell CEO saying that Apple should shut down and give the money back to the shareholders. And now to me, it's just crazy. I remember when they opened stores, I thought, they're going to go out of business. They're going to pull a Gateway. Because that's what Gateway did. Gateway opened up too many stores, they strapped themselves down, and they ran out of money. And I thought, this is exactly what's going to happen to Apple. And now they're going to be selling $10,000 watches. Oh, that's crazy. Mumble Room, any thoughts before we move on to our Kickstarter this week? I told you we're going fast.
Yeah, I'm just surprised Apple isn't throwing their weight around even more.
Yeah, I guess they do in some ways, don't they? They do in some ways and they don't in others. Like, one way that they throw their weight around, which I don't think is very apparent to us as consumers, is they pre-buy up a crap ton of resources like Sapphire and LCD panels and DRAM and SSD storage, and they buy a ton of it, like years in advance. And that has hurt some other companies, and that's one of the reasons, not the reason, it's one of the reasons why some of our other gadgets aren't as nice as the Apple gadgets. Now, you know what? As a big company that has to build a lot of things, it's perfectly within their right to negotiate pre-bought contracts. But it is an interesting way where they'll leverage their billions to, like, for example, that Sapphire plant that didn't work out. One of the things that Apple does with their money is they go in there and they buy all of the equipment for that plant. The plant doesn't have to buy the equipment. Of course, now they're on the hook big time to Apple, and Apple essentially owns their ass. But Apple has so much money that when they want to get into some new manufacturing plant and they want to start manufacturing something in a specific way because the device they want needs it that way, they have to drill a hole just the way Johnny Ive wants it, they'll buy them all the equipment. And there's not really any other companies that can do that. And that gives Apple a pretty unique market position.
This does get into a dangerous situation with rare earth metals because from what I hear, rare earth metals are only getting more rare.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be the competition there will get even more and more intense. Then there's other ways, though, like something we didn't really touch on this week, but going back to the Apple Watch announcement, one of the things that they talked about was this system called Research Kit, and I don't know if you guys saw that, but the gist of what I understood is it's sort of like a centralized database that lives on the iPhone, the different health applications and metrics that user permitting can opt into to sort of collect analytics and then sort of provide research numbers back. I don't really quite understand how the system works, but for example, I'm just giving you my rough understanding is say you got the new Apple Watch or you got a Fitbit on that can measure your heart rate, right? And it's sitting there and it's measuring your heart rate, and for science, quote unquote, you decide to opt into some sort of study, and you could import that information into Research Kit and then provide them to that. Well, that's kind of interesting right there, but the even more interesting part, I guess, is that they open sourced all of it, including the apps that they created to feed into it. And I don't know what license they open sourced it, but that's a good example of, they really could have thrown their weight around in a much more significant way. And then one more, and then we'll move on from that, is with the payment system, right? They did a tokenized NFC payment system that essentially enables all of the other NFC payment systems to work as well. So if you if you're a merchant and you get a point of sales device that works with Apple Pay, that same device is capable of working with Google Pay and the other competitors that use NFC. They could have gone with some sort of Bluetooth LE system, which they have in their iPhones, like going back to the 4S. So they could have had Apple Pay working on a much wider range of devices using Bluetooth LE and maybe some other trick, maybe I don't know what. And instead, they opted to go to NFC, which is only available in the iPhone 6 forward, but yet is available in a much wider range of Android devices. And then again, their market position, they could have used. I was surprised by that move as well. And we've also seen Microsoft make some interesting moves, like about potentially opening up the Xbox for a little bit more development, not anything open, but actually allowing apps on there is a totally different Microsoft now. So it's in 2015 it's turning out pretty interesting because these companies, I think, because of Google in a lot of ways, are under pressure to behave a little bit differently. And they're making a lot of money doing it. All right, let's do our Kickstarter of the week. The Mumble Room picked this one. This is a device that could be very handy. Some cars already have this built in, but for those of us like myself who have like an old truck that doesn't really have any features at all, this is a pretty handy thing. I wouldn't mind getting this for my truck. They're tire pressure monitor caps. Now, this is a Kickstarter. It's got 19 backers. It's got a goal of $125,000, only $800 so far. Let's take a look at the video because this seems like it could be a pretty cool deal. It's called the Quick Tire Pressure Monitors, and this was on Fox 40 Live, probably at like one of their local stations, one of their local news affiliates.
Thursday. Thanks for getting up with us. I'm It's Paul Robbins.
Yep, and really, actually, interesting half-hour set to TiVo if you have to walk out the door, because we've been talking all week long about crazy inventions that generated a lot of money.
That you wish you had thought of.
We have a local inventor with a product that's actually extremely practical.
This is cool. Yeah.
Great idea for your car. And it's a local guy that's just now taking this product to market. So we're going to meet him and look at his product. And then air pressure. This is a very cool story. Just got a
news clip. How perfect for Unfiltered Wednesday.
Local man behind an amazing new invention coming up right after the break.
Man, these guys are so local news. This is something Unfiltered would totally mock. But yeah, there he is. There he is.
Oh, that's not him. Tend to be a complete fail, but this next one I think is really, really cool. We have Paul outside with a local man who has come up with a great set of ideas of his own. Paul?
Here in the box.
I like to have a patio lower third.
Paul?
Paul, are you there, Paul?
This is actually very exciting. Got an email the other day from Ron Cook. Ron, how are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
You too.
Appreciate
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We kind of jumped at the chance to have you come down. It's an interesting invention, and just the fact that you're a local guy.
Maybe they should put his microphone on Kickstarter.
Like we just thought it was a fascinating story to tell. What are we looking at down here?
Well, we're looking at tire monitors, and basically what this is that you have a tire on your vehicle or anything that has...
All right, he's already got them pre-packaged up and ready to go.
You can put
packs
our
of 4
product on there, check the air, make sure that it's the right pressure, screw that on there, and the piston inside there will show green if you have the right air pressure. When you start losing 10% loss of air, you'll start getting a little bit of red, all the way down 25%, you get full red.
I like that.
I'm going to go, well, why didn't I think of that? Because, we should regularly check our tire pressure. It's a safety thing. It's a better gas mileage thing.
It is.
And yet, almost nobody really checks them as often as they should. And to have a visual indicator right there on your tire stem, way to go.
Yeah.
All right, so you had the
This
idea.
guy.
What's the next step?
Well, the next step is that we're going to be manufacturing these, and we have a fully automated machine that's coming in, and we're doing really good. Right now we're on Amazon.com and also on our website.
Okay, and I know they're going to be spread. Now, as we head over here to do a demonstration, I want to point out the next step after you first thought of it was R&D, and you spent how much developing this?
About $1 million.
Oh, way to go. All right. Well, let's show them how it works. This is very cool. We've got one in place. Here's a little tiny tire.
Yeah, we got to see how it works, of course. Now, hold on now. Okay, so what's he kickstarting if he's already got on Amazon? Let's jump ahead here. Do they explain what's going on here? No, that'll be up to us. Now we will investigate. So let's take a look. So let's see. Check your tire pressure at a glance, made of brass, attached to valve stem. Okay, all right. So it looks like that's kind of what he just described there. Now, why are we on Kickstarter? Let's see. Receive 1 pack of... So is he just selling? Yeah. Okay, the money we're trying to raise is for sales and marketing. I see. So this is going to help them with sales and marketing of their product, which actually does seem like a pretty good product. So what you can do is help them raise funds, and if you get one of the right pledge levels, you'll get a pack. So, for example, $25, you'll get 1 pack of 4 tire pressure caps. At $50, you'll get 2 packs. And then, of course, they get money for their budget to help market their product, which actually seems like a pretty good product. And again, my wife's car has this built in. Like they talk about that right here. They say most new cars have an onboard computer that tells them if their tire's low. However, the vehicles we are targeting don't have tire bonders, like mine. I love my truck, but it does. I have no idea really how my tires are doing. And plus, I'd love the idea of it glowing.
I only have one question for that.
What is it? What is it?
They only show like smaller tires. Like how big of a tire can you put this on? Because the ones in my truck require 60 psi, which blows up most automatic little tire things.
Right. This one does 26 to 165 psi.
Okay, so yeah, it could go on my truck.
Yeah, I think so. Now it looks like the product is called. Let's see. The company's name is Quick Pressure, and you can find more at tireqp.com. So let's go over to Amazon and see if it's just on Amazon as a product right now, because I almost just kind of want these just right now. I guess if I was going to do this, I should back their Kickstarter, but I'm just curious to see. Okay, so on Amazon, they're not primable, but they sell for $19 on Amazon right now.
If it's going to glow red as I go down the street, is that just going to give the cops another excuse to pull me over?
So here you go. So this is really actually not a bad deal, you guys. Check this out. So if you spent $25, you would be helping them with their marketing budget. Plus, they don't give any kickback to Amazon, right? That just goes right to them. And then, see, normally they go for $19. That's a pretty reasonable price for this kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'll put a link in the show notes. You guys can check it out.
And looks like when it doesn't actually glow. It's just a color indicator slider, basically dependent upon your air loss.
That makes sense. Right, because it'd be pressure based. Otherwise, you'd have to charge it. And so here so higher PSI levels, like here's 105 PSI is $31. Interesting. I think it's kind of a neat idea. But anyways, we'll put a link in the show notes if you guys want to back it and help them out. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. All right, so I have one last story to kind of blow your mind before we get out of here. Before we talk about that, though, why don't I plug the Linux Action Show shirt that we're launching right now to try to get funding for our efforts at Linux Fest Northwest. Now, we've reached 53 of 150, speaking of kickstarting. So right now, we haven't reached our goal yet. Once we reach 150, we about break even on costs on everything here, and then if we can get beyond that, then we start funding Linux Fest. We'd have to get quite a bit beyond that, though, so I'm a little worried that we might not reach there, and we might have to come up with a plan B for Linux Fest Northwest, and we can do that, hopefully. But what we'd really like to do is give you something and have a way to support the show, kind of like the tire pressure guys are doing. If you go to teespring.com/Linux, you can grab the t-shirt, or like I have on the screen right now, the long sleeve or a hoodie. They even have, I even like the kiddies one. Check this out. Kids tee. Boom. I'm going to get that for the kids. Can't wait to have my kids walk around Linux Action Show logo. That's really cool. We also have the ladies tee right there. I have the long sleeve up because I love them. I have today, I'm wearing my Unfilter long sleeve shirt, and I love this one. These shirts are really, really great. And see, when you wear a jacket over it, you look like a professional, sort of. I'll leave that up to your judgment. But you go to teespring.com/Linux. You grab one of these. We're selling the T-shirts at cost. $17 is near cost, I think. So we wanted to do that because the hope is, if you're going to make it with Future Fest, Linux Fest Northwest in particular, or if you're ever going to go somewhere and just want to sort of represent Linux, we want this to be the shirt you go to. So we made it $17 so that way it's accessible to as many people as possible. If you really want to help our efforts and want to grab two, that would be great. Or grab a hoodie or something like that. Just go get yourself something. Really, these are great shirts, and we've really got this process down, and we designed the logo to print well on a shirt too. So I'd love to see this reach its 150 goal. That's at teespring.com/Linux. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's get to that story because this is kind of cool, and it reminds you from time to time that despite what popular opinion would have us believe, that whenever you question science that you are some sort of heretic, science is actually an always changing and reevaluating process. In fact, that's one of the things that's genuinely beautiful about it, is that it is safe to question itself and reevaluate itself. And this story kind of reminds us of that. The Milky Way may be 50% bigger than previously thought. A ring-like filament of stars wrapping around the Milky Way may actually belong to the galaxy itself, rippling above and below the relatively flat galactic plane. If so, that would expand the size of the known galaxy by 50% and raise intriguing questions about what caused the wave of stars. Scientists used data collected by the Sloan Digital Sky Survey to reanalyze the brightness and distance of the stars at the edge of the galaxy. They found that on the fringe of the disk, it puckered into rings and ridges of grooves of stars, like a corrugated cardboard. It looks to me like maybe these patterns are following the spiral structure of the Milky Way. So they may be related, said astronomer Heidi Newberg. In other Milky Way news, a Cambridge team has found 9 dwarf satellites orbiting our galaxy. Some of them are definitely dwarf galaxies, and others may be the same globular clusters. Pretty cool stuff. 50% bigger. So guess what, guys? Real estate prices are going to crash in the Milky Way. So make sure you get out. That's all I'm saying. Sell off your real estate on the outer ring. That's Chris's technology advice of the day. Hey, Mum Room, thanks for being here tomorrow. Now, guys, will you come back on Friday? Remember, we don't have a show tomorrow, but I think, rumor has it, Ange might join us again on Friday. I'm going to try to talk her into it. So I'd love to have you guys here, too. We'll have a fun show. Deal? Yeah?
Deal.
Try to.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. too. You too, chat room. Don't forget, come over, jblive.tv. We start at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And you can also help out all day long, 24/7, all week long, even when we're not on air, over at techtalktoday.reddit.com. Boom! Love your Kickstarters, too. We might do another one on Friday if we get a good submission in the subreddit. Now, I'm going to leave you with, maybe more of a budget watch. We've talked a lot about Apple Watch, and man, those prices are woo-wee. I mean, you just start even looking at some of the decent bands, and you're talking $600-700, and that's ridiculous. So maybe instead we could have a little fun. Go with a budget watch. Now, like I said, we're going to look back at some of the previous trends with watches. Now, this is one I haven't seen anybody pull off yet, but maybe Canonical could jump on this. Consider this one like the Convergence Watch.
If you want to hear music from a box like this, here's a high band blaster that you wear on your wrist. High band blasters. And would you look at this watch, who would ever know it can change into a robot radio? Robot radio.
Planoform non-radio watch is also available. Inviceptor Jet, Excalibur Gun, Scorpia, Autochron, Autoceptor, Keltor, and the Robot Time Machine. Each sold separately.